Levitate Legal is more than a law firm. We're your thought partners in solving big problems. Our team of seasoned professionals have secured and managed over 200 million in funding for our partners, and we're just getting started. Local governments, nonprofits, and corporate entities contact Levitate Legal for your legal compliance, program decision, grant funding, and public policy needs. Follow us on YouTube and visit us at www.levitatelegal.com.
Watch, that's gonna sound terrible. All of that's gonna sound terrible. What? It's gonna be terrible. Watch. We gonna have to go back and fix all that.
Should just let me freestyle open.
Don't you worry about a thing. You hear me? Because they may have said you're not gonna freestyle off the top. But Iva says
Yo. Go vote. Go vote.
That's it?
That's it. That's it.
Man, you said you was gonna do at least tell me a good joke.
Man, good joke.
Yeah.
What do you call an alligator wearing a vest?
Okay, what do you call an alligator wearing a vest?
An investigator. I'll be here all week, bro.
I gotta give you some on that. I like it.
I'll be here
I like that one. That was a good one. That was a good one. He didn't even read it. That was just straight off the dome.
That's it.
I love it.
That's it.
I am here with Mr. Shomari Figures. Raised in his grandfather's church, educated from kindergarten to law school, the people and places of the state made him who he is today. Inspired by his parents, Michael and Vivian Figures, who devoted their careers to public service and instilled in him the values of service and community, he's dedicated his life to advocate for the people and places that have always been at the core of who he is, the people of Alabama. His father, Michael Figures, was a state senator and lawyer. For over 2 decades, he fought to expand rights for Black people in Mobile and across Black Belt, Alabama. He worked to protect property rights and ensure fair representation for Black people, and successfully brought the lawsuit that bankrupted the Klan after they lynched a Black teenager in Mobile in 1981. His mother served on the Mobile City Council at the time of his father's death, sudden death, and she was elected to fill his seat in the state Senate. She still serves as a state senator and has worked to protect women's rights and improve health and education in Alabama. I think the absolute world of your mother.
Thank you. I do too.
When we got to be close when Bob Jones was running for mayor here in Birmingham. And as I dove off into politics, I'd always been a political brat. But when I decided I wanted to get paid for it, your mother introduced me to people, treated me like, how old are you if you don't know?
I'm 38.
You look younger. I was much younger. I was in late 20s, early 30s. No, late 20s. I guess. I don't know. But anyway, she treated me like an adult. You know what I mean? Even though I was young, I was cutting my teeth. I didn't know who was who.
That's interesting because she still treat me like I'm a child. That's good.
Well, I haven't seen her in a while. She probably still might treat me like a little boy. But I say all that to say that although we just met,
Mm-hmm.
I think very highly, as others do, of your family name, your father and your mother go back with my dad, and I'm just really honored to have you here, man.
Thank you, man. I'm glad to be here. Very glad to be
when
here.
when he walked in, I was like, I don't like your bio because you have such a stellar resume. And I wanted to read that resume. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's your setup.
Mm-hmm.
First things first, tell us who you are as if you are in a job interview.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Your professional career.
Well, thanks for having us here, man, and giving us this platform, and giving others the platform, man, to come here and just talk about what's important to the community in this region, in this state. But as for me, look, I'm Shomari Figures. I was born and raised in Mobile, Alabama. I'm Michael and Vivian's son, and now I'm Kalisha's husband, and Micah, Nova, and Zora's father. That's who I am. But I was, for me, it all started, in what is now District 2, but in Mobile. That's where I was born. That's where I was raised. That's where I was educated. Proud graduate of John L. LaFleur High School.
Now, before you got to LaFleur,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of grade school student were you? Were you in the band? Did you play sports? What kind of kid were you?
So I was a pretty athletically involved kid. I mean, we played all three sports growing up. Well, what we referred to as all three back then.
In Alabama.
Yeah, basketball, baseball, football.
Yeah,
that's what we did. So every year, year round, that's what we did. I mean, I grew up playing in Hank Aaron Park.
Yeah,
which is around the corner from where I originally grew up, and a little down the street from where we moved to. And and we were pretty good. We won a few state championships in basketball. I won a few city championships in baseball and football. Played with a few people throughout my childhood career. Some names that you will be familiar with, most notably Jamarcus Russell. Was a Park League. We played against each other, but on certain sort of like state tournament teams and things, we played with each other. And he's doing well. But
and then in high school, what was that matriculation like? Did you continue to play sports?
It was just basketball. Yeah.
Just basketball.
Look, from a sports side of things, it was just basketball.
Gotcha.
We won a state championship, 6A state championship, 2003. We actually beat West End in the Final Four that year. And then, but it was just basketball in high school. That was the only sport that I played. And then, I also did television production too in high school. That was also like a passion. When I went to college originally, I actually went in as a TV and film production major and switched.
Now, first, tell us where you decided to go to college, and why you decided. Yeah. What was that decision like?
Yeah. So look, I went to University of Alabama. It was, I think, what the primary driving factor, because this is obviously pre-Nick Saban that we're talking about. I finished high school in 2003. Nick Saban didn't get to Alabama until 2009. I went, at the time, I had a very close cousin who was just graduating. My brother was in law school there at the time. My father went to law school. My father integrated to law school there. He was in the first class that admitted blacks into law school in 1969.
I remember that about his history now that you say it.
He and several others. And so I had kind of always had it in me that, like, if my dad came in and kicked down these doors, I wanna show up and show him that, that we still here.
Yeah.
And so I went to Alabama, had had the fortune of, I graduated a little early. I got there 2003. I graduated 2006. Criminal justice and history was what I focused on in college. And then from there, I went to to law school there at the University of Alabama, again, following in my father's footsteps. And the rest is sort of history.
Got all that out the way. Let's get to business.
All right, let's do it.
Every time I look for something that has been said, that something has been said about your residency.
Mm-hmm.
Now, take as long as you like.
Yeah.
But put it to bed.
Yeah, we can put it to bed, man. Look, I think you probably hear more about my opponent's residency than mine. Because
True.
because my residency is Mobile. That's look, when we made the decision to run for this seat, we had the option to live anywhere in this state. We chose Mobile because Mobile is home. That's where I was born. That's where I was raised, and we now live just a few minutes from where I grew up.
Now, specifically in the Deuces Wild group chat, people were and are talking about, the fact that you moved from Washington, like, I don't want to beat a dead horse.
Yeah.
I just want to beat that dead horse to bed. Like, what does the law say? What are the residency requirements, etc.?
Yeah. So look, it's no secret that I work. Well, we didn't get to that part of my career, but after law school, I went on a career path that took me across federal government. It took me at the highest levels of federal government. I was blessed to be able to work to clerk on federal court, and I was worked to help get President Obama elected on his campaign. Then I went to Washington, D.C., and I worked there in the White House of President Obama. And then I worked at the Department of Justice. I worked in Congress. I went back and worked most recently as Deputy Chief of Staff to Attorney General Merrick Garland. I've worked at the highest levels of federal government that you can possibly work at. Working in a White House, working at the top of a federal agency, senior advisor to a cabinet official, senior advisor to a member in Congress. And that experience, that's what makes me the most qualified person in this race, right? Because one of Alabama's sons went to Washington, D.C., learned how this works, learned how federal government works. I don't agree with how it works in a lot of respects, but I know there's nobody in this race that knows how federal government works better than me because I've been there. I've been in those rooms. Alabama is what prepared me to be in those rooms. That was always the wind beneath my wings, as they say, was because I was able to take a lens and a view and a focal point into every meeting, whether it's a meeting room with senior White House officials or a meeting room with other senators or members of Congress or other agency heads. Being there, being able to speak through the issues that we're working on behalf of the American people through a lens of somebody that grew up Black in Alabama, that's a unique lens. And I was the only person that was at those tables with that perspective on these issues. So look, it's no secret I've been in D.C. We haven't run from that. I embrace that. Because like I say, that's exactly what makes me the most qualified here. Now, this was not, running for Congress is not part of some master plan. I don't think it was part of anybody's master plan, mine or my opponents, right? Like this was not a district that existed in the way it is drawn now. It went to, there was some voting rights after the last census, after they do every 10 years. The state legislature redraws the congressional districts to make sure they conform with the right, having the right amount of people in each district. As required by law. This time when they did it, as they've done before, and as several other states did it, they drew the districts in a line that sort of packed all the Black people into, not all, but an oversized segment of the Black population into one district, which is the Birmingham district, or the district that represents most of Birmingham, Terry Sewell's district. It was so bad, it was so racially motivated in its drawing that even this Supreme Court said, nah, Alabama, you can't do that. Black people make up almost 28% of your population, and yet they only have one opportunity to legitimately influence the outcome of 7 congressional seats in the state. So they told them to redraw it. The state of Alabama basically said, nah, we're going to do what we want to do anyway. And to which the federal courts, the federal courts said, we'll draw this district for you then, since you won't do it yourself. And again, look, so this district is yet again, like part of the reason people say, hey, why did you want to work in federal government? For me, it's because I grew up Black in Alabama. I knew that when you grow up here, you know that it's often taken the federal government to make this state do right by Black people. That's what always motivated me to want to go work in federal government, because I knew the role that it had played in integrating the United States in voting rights here in the state of Alabama, in protecting the life and security and safety of Black people here in the state of Alabama.
Before you move on, I don't have to be objective and all that kind of stuff. I would hope that no one would penalize you for going to Washington and learning and working and providing and advocating for Alabama and Washington. That's foreign to me. I could see if you were, you ran off to Disney World,
Big law firm.
big law firm,
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
the case may be. But I wanted to interrupt because it's a perfect time and a segue for me to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Had Wallace Gilberry
Mm-hmm.
been a legitimate candidate,
And I know Wallace, by the way, very well. Very well.
he's bullshit. All right.
No, well,
no.
look.
This is my time to talk. No.
Okay.
He had a hell of an opportunity and he just squandered it.
No.
All right. Now I'm very pro black man.
Yeah.
And my values are pretty conservative.
Yeah.
So here's the question. Your district was not drawn black.
Mm.
It was drawn competitive.
Absolutely.
You're going to have a different trick, if you will. You're going to have a harder time than Terry Sewell because you're going to have to, manage that.
Yeah.
Can you address that, please?
Yeah. So I want to start with Wallace. I do know Wallace.
Go ahead.
And we've known Wallace since high school. We played ball against each other in high school. He was a standout football player, but he was also pretty good at basketball. And we actually graduated the same year, went to Alabama together. We literally ride back and forth to school together. Look, I was surprised that he was, entering the race on the Republican side as well. But I do know him. I know. In fact, we just saw him at the, he's working with one of the candidates on the Republican side now in his campaign, and we saw them at a recent debate that we did. But Wallace Wallace is a good dude in my experience with him. I got no problems with Wallace. He's somebody that I count as a friend. If I need something, that I can do it. But that being said, this district it is competitive. It is competitive. It was drawn to be a quote unquote opportunity district, was the lens through which it was written about in the federal court cases that dealt with it. And so you look at a Terry Sewell's district, which I'm not, I don't recall her specific statistics, but I'm pretty sure it's at least 70% black. This
high
district,
60s.
high 60s, yeah. And before this district was drawn, it was even higher, right? Because they took some of the black people out of her district to create this district. And so this district, 48% black, 46% white, 6% Latino, Native American, and Asian American. And, it is a district that, President Biden would have won this district pretty probably by a double-digit margin, 10 or 11 points. President Biden would have won this district in 2020. However, Governor Ivey would have also won this district. If this was just a district, for her race,
right.
she would have won this district as well. So that shows you it's competitive, right? It's not a foregone conclusion that a Democrat is going to win this race. So it means that, look, we have to get out and we got to get our message out and we got to get our people out to vote. Because of that competitive nature of it, just getting back to the residency piece of it, I live in Mobile. I'm from Mobile, born and raised in Mobile. And the other piece about the residency that I'll add, not to go back. Well, no,
go ahead.
Let's go back. We were in an 11 candidate field on March 5th when we had the primary election against 4 sitting state legislators, including my opponent now. My residency was the same then that it is now. I lived in Mobile. We walked away with 44% of the vote. Right, 44% of the vote. Almost 70% of the vote went to county, a little over 70% of the vote went to candidates who lived in this district. My opponent not being one, my runoff opponent not being one of those candidates. He finished in second place with about 21% of the vote. And so, that residency piece, I think it matters, not just, being from this district, but having shown people that you have the commitment and the dedication to this district to actually move and live in the district, to live in, to work amongst, to go to church amongst, to be around the people that you're asking to vote for you. That is, a lot of people think that's just one-on-one. You asked me about what the law is in regards to residency. The law only requires you to live anywhere in the state. That's the law. All right, but not everything you can do, you should do. Right? At the end of the day, if a seat was in Birmingham, would you feel okay with somebody in Mobile running to represent you here in Birmingham? Most people wouldn't, right? The vast majority of people would not.
I'll tell you, I've given that thought, and no, no, I'm serious. Like, I love the people from Birmingham that ran for that seat.
Yeah.
I ain't say a word
because
I just didn't think it was right.
Yeah, and look, and Representative Gavan and Senator Coleman both had no problems with either one of them. In fact, Representative Gavan endorsed us yesterday. But it was a challenge for them in running because they were running in an area where they don't have a base. And so getting back to them
both.
Yeah,
love them,
great women,
adore them,
great women, and do great work. But when we talk about the competitive nature of this district, that base really matters. And the reason it matters is this, and then there's a representation issue that matters there too. I'll come back to. But the reason that base matters is this: is because we're going to be going against a Republican where this residency thing of them not living in a district is not an issue. So in November, the Republican is going to have a base that shows up. If we put somebody whose base is in Huntsville against that Republican, then this district becomes a lot less competitive for Democrats and more competitive for Republicans because their base will show up. And we won't have a Democrat that has a base in Montgomery or a base in Mobile or a base, across this district that's going to show up behind them. And so that really puts us at a disadvantage if that happens. So look, to me, it's about commitment and dedication, right? Like my opponent said, hey, if I win, I'll move into the district. But can you imagine? Can you literally imagine a woman or a man, telling their spouse, the person that they're dating, I will stop dating all these other people after you marry me.
Right.
Like that's literally what it boils down to. Like your love, you want to see that commitment beforehand, right?
As you're answering this, I want to insert something.
Go ahead.
So you can, because I love the way you're putting it all together. As you're answering that question, I'd love for you to point out more than residency, this like policy wise, what are 2 or 3 things you definitely want to do?
Yeah. And
I would love to hear you point to the differences in the two of you. I'm a little more this. He's, what I'm saying? Like, draw a contrast.
So look,
past just the residency.
Yeah. So look, we're both Democrats and we're both running on the Democratic side. And so we've, I think even when you had Representative Gavan and State Senator Coleman, when you had Representative Napoleon Bracey, James Averhart, and Phyllis Harvey Hall, the others that were in this race, we were all generally pretty aligned around the sort of core policy aspects of it. But what I'll say is this: is that I think in terms of me, like we're asked consistently, what's the biggest challenge you see facing this district? And to me, that challenge is the challenge of life itself. And the reason I say that is this: if you were born in the state of Alabama, you are expected to die before anybody else born anywhere in the United States of America, with the exception of 2 states, and you could probably guess one of them. Mississippi, and West Virginia being the other one.
Okay.
Lowest life expectancy in America, right? There's some other places that live longer, upwards of 15 years longer than people here in Alabama. But barely past your 60s. If you're born in Alabama, you're barely expected to live past your 60s, right? Just your early 70s, 71, 72 years old. That's literally what you are expected to live to in the state of Alabama on average, right? So that means far too many more die before 71. And so that is because of healthcare access, healthcare affordability. That is because too many people, and I'm sure people like this, everybody knows people like this, they never went to the doctor. 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, didn't go to a doctor unless it was like, they broke an arm or something, they'll go to an emergency room, right? And the reason they didn't go is because they didn't have a job that offered them healthcare that was affordable. They were more scared of going to a doctor. They were more scared of getting the bill than they were of getting the diagnosis. And so by the time they ultimately became eligible to actually receive some sort of health coverage, whether it's Medicaid or Medicare, they were dealing with an issue that would ultimately kill them, right? They were dealing with an issue, a high blood pressure, a hypertension, a diabetes, a some other chronic condition that we're known for, especially in the Black community. And had they been able just to go to a doctor 15 years, 20 years before time, and consistently, they would have been able to receive the sort of life choices, health, lifestyle choice, guidance, finding out they're on the pathway to having a condition that's going to be ultimately lead to their demise. Something that they would have been able to find out, something that they could reverse or avoid, that wouldn't ultimately lead them to dying at 55, 60, 65, 71. That's a huge issue. And so when we hear it in the news a lot about Medicaid expansion, like Alabama's only one of 5 or 6 states that have not expanded Medicaid. So you're not going to tell me that it makes sense for 45 other states to expand Medicaid, but Alabama's so different that we just can't figure out a way to do it. You have 45 other states. That means you got Republican-led states, Democrat-led states, Western states, Eastern states, Northern states, Southern states, but we're different for whatever reason. One thing I can pretty much guarantee you, I can go back and look at it, but I can pretty much guarantee without looking at it, that of the states that have not expanded Medicaid, people in Alabama die the fastest. You got the lowest life expectancy in this state, and we're refusing to expand healthcare coverage to over 300,000 people in this state. That's a big issue. So priority number one is getting to Washington, D.C. and making sure that we can re-incentivize the state of Alabama to expand its Medicaid, which was originally offered during Obamacare when I was in the White House, but Alabama has consistently refused to do it. And that's a state legislature problem. That's not a my opponent problem or that's not a jab at my opponent. That's just the realities of it, that the state of Alabama, the state legislature has to pass it. The governor needs to sign it, and they've refused to do it.
But you chose a great word there, or an approach or proposal, which is incentivizing the state of Alabama to do it.
Yeah,
and
they've done it before.
Right.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that the Republicans in Alabama are poised to possibly pass that legislation. And hearing you say, hey, if we incentivize it, maybe somebody picks up on that and that's the decision maker. What's your second priority?
So look, I think in my heart of hearts, and this is no disrespect to any other profession, but in the United States of America, the single most important professions are our teachers and our school support personnel. They are the single most important professions to the future of this district, of this state, and of this country. They literally are training every other profession. They're training the workforce of the future. We don't treat them that way here. And so we have to figure out what we can do. Better school systems start with better people teaching. That's and parental involvement. But we have to do everything that we can to incentivize let me correct something I said. Better school systems start with having the best that we can possibly have in our classrooms teaching. Because I don't want to insinuate that our teachers are bad teachers.
Want me to do it?
No. I'm
just
because listen, teachers are dedicated, man. The majority of them, in my experience, are very dedicated. They care. They are passionate. They want to be able to be the best, but they need a system that has their back, that's going to stand up and support them, not just through salaries, but making sure that they're going to school and teaching in safe environments, going to school and teaching in modernized environments, going to school in some of these rural areas and teaching in classrooms that are not the same literal classrooms that these kids' grandparents and great-grandparents went to. Going to teaching in an environment where, here in the state of Alabama, now this is another state legislature issue that they've just refused to even address. Here in the state of Alabama, the teachers who we expect to take care of everybody else's children, when they decide to have a baby of their own, you know how many paid days off they get in the state of Alabama? 0. Not a single paid day off for public school employees in the state of Alabama, unless some school systems do it differently.
So that's why they trade hoard days trade days.
That's exactly why you have this day trading game.
I never knew that.
That's why, because we don't offer them paid time off. It's ridiculous. So how do you tell a teacher, hey, come teach here in the state of Alabama, right? Where our salaries are in the bottom half of what's offered in the country. You may have to go work in a school that was built before the civil rights movement, right? Man, by the way, when you decide to have a family of your own, and give you no paid days off. but come teach here. Like, how do you do that? You can't, right? And so because of that, what you see is the average teacher coming into a classroom in the state of Alabama is gone after 3 years. They have left the classroom that they went into year one, they're gone from that classroom by year three, right? Because we are not showing them that the value, the appreciation, the respect, the investment in their future and in their jobs. You know, there was a time that you can probably remember with, especially in like our parents' era, where teachers were just as revered as doctors and lawyers, especially in the Black community, right? Especially in the Black community. Do you think our policies reflect that today? They don't. And so when we talk about, you know, supporting our school systems and supporting our future workforce development, you can't have a conversation about workforce development without first having a conversation about your education systems, because your education systems, particularly your public education systems, will educate the majority of workers of the future, period. Not enough private or charter schools to do it, even if you're pro charter school, right? It's just not enough of them out there. The majority of people that will be taking the jobs in these communities will come out of our public school system, and we can't continue to allow divestments in our public school systems. We have to reverse that course of thinking and actually invest more, especially into our teachers, and showing them that we do value the role that they're going to play to the future prosperity of this country and of this district and of this state as a whole. So as to
hold on, you've been listening to me because I'm joking. We just met, but teachers doubling teacher pay is like, that's what I want. I want to be turning people away.
Yeah.
Because so many people are applying for jobs.
Yeah.
And right behind our education system, in my opinion, is our public safety. And I just, you know, anytime people are talking about increasing the pay of teachers, public safety, I'm for it. Now, give me your third. I know you have a plethora of priorities, but which of the top three, what's your third?
Look, doing everything you can to get jobs into a community, which I think ultimately ties into that education system conversation, education support. But a third issue, I don't want to like pick favorite children, but a third issue that I certainly want to prioritize, not in any particular order, is gun violence. Like, because it is something that is like literally wiping away generations, especially people who look like me and you. It's something that we have to address as a community issue. We have to. I will stand side by side when anybody is taking life when it's not deserved, whether that's police or whether that's somebody in our communities. At the end of the day, we have to address this issue. We have to figure out a way to bring back those programs that used to be federally funded here down in Mobile. I know Montgomery, they probably had it up here, the NYSP summer program that used to be around, where kids actually had a structured environment surrounded by a lot of teachers during the summer, and people that were vested in their future, invested in their concerns about their safeties and just general life outcomes, where they spent that time invested in the after school programs, where we need them to be in a structured environment. Because guess what? In all likelihood, mama's not at home when you get home from school, because she's still working job 1 or job 2 or job 3 to make ends meet, right? So when mama's coming home at 10 and 11 o'clock at night because she's doing what she's got to do to take care of the family, or daddy doing the same, we need to make sure that our kids have access to the types of services and environments that are necessary to make sure that they're staying on the best path forward and not spending idle time unsupervised in our streets and more likely to end up on one side or the other of a gun. So it starts there. It really does. And jobs ties into this issue as well. Childcare, cost of childcare ties into this issue as well. So it's a multifaceted problem. Nobody has the perfect solution for it. It's a comprehensive issue.
But hold on, keep your thought. Going back to the gun piece, and it goes without saying, if it's a black man on the ballot, that's who I'm voting for. People can take that how they may. But we know what our electeds could and should be doing. What should black men be doing? Black fathers, black uncles, black cousins. What should we be doing in the community to assist our public safety, to assist our politicians?
Yeah, look, I think
Because,
it's
you know, gun violence is ravaging Birmingham right now.
it's ravaging communities across this country. Montgomery, Mobile. Look, I spent this New Year's Day morning. I spent at a balloon release for a childhood and high school friend of mine, former basketball teammate of mine, who was shot and killed a few years at a balloon release his mother does every year on the anniversary of his death. It happened to be on January 1st. You know, at that same cemetery, I literally stopped by the grave of another childhood friend that was shot and killed just a couple months before him. And on the way there, I get a phone call that a kid that had been killed in downtown Mobile during the New Year's Eve festivities was the son of a high school classmate of mine. I got a brother that's been shot over a dozen times. Like this is an issue that touches people personally. And my stories, unfortunately, are not unique. It's just not. And so, look, I do think it's a community solution to this problem. We didn't get here overnight. We're not going to get out of it overnight. But I do think it takes people being vested in the overall safety of their community, being vested in the overall positive life outcomes for the kids that are coming through there. And we have a lot of people. I don't want to focus so much on what we're not doing and not highlight the people that are doing, right? Because we have a lot of Black fathers and Black coaches and Black teachers and Black pastors who are actually out here on the front lines and actually, you know, doing everything that they can to create the programs and wrap these kids in communities of love and care and concern and people being vested in their outcomes. But at the end of the day, I do think it's a collective effort. It has to be a collective effort. It has to be a collective effort between our parents and our schools. We definitely need parents to be more actively involved collectively in our school systems and what's taking place in our schools. We need our community leaders to be more vested and involved in actually creating the types of jobs and opportunities that, you know, we can have summer jobs for, for our high school age kids who are more likely to be involved in gun violence than some of the younger kids. We need to make sure the federal government has a significant role in funding those types of programs that used to be here, that provided those sort of avenues and outlets for students, particularly during the summer and after school. And so, look, it's a lot, but I think we all have a role to play. We all have a part to play. You have a part to play even in hosting this podcast and elevating the issue, right? Everybody has a role to play here, but we need the sort of care and concern around this issue that we see in some of the higher profile killings. Like we needed to always be there. There was a 9-year-old girl that was killed in Mobile a few months back during a drive-by shooting. Somebody shooting up the house and they hit a 9-year-old girl and she dies. And, that sort of stuff is not, it shouldn't be the norm. Like it shouldn't be, there was not this massive public outcry about it, the way that a 9-year-old girl, you know what I'm saying? Like a 9-year-old girl sitting asleep on a couch and is killed. We went to a memorial for that young lady. And I thought the park would just be packed full of people, but it wasn't. Right. And so
people are getting numb to it.
Yeah, people, and that's it. It's not that people don't care. It's just that they've getting numb to it, right?
Yeah.
I didn't mean to insinuate that people didn't care. It's just the numbing normalcy of these sorts of tragedies happening throughout our communities. And I, for one, just do not believe that these are not problems that we cannot fix. When I was at the Department of Justice, we started being able to channel resources to some states. In fact, Birmingham was actually able to receive some this last go around called Community Violence Intervention Funding that can go in to fund proactive programs that are designed to keep kids, minimize the risk of kids ending up on one side of the gun or the other. So it's a big problem, one that I'm very passionate about, and one that I do want to work extensively on if I get to Congress.
2 minutes. Mm-hmm. Cameron.
All right.
Talk to him.
Look, this election is this is an opportunity for us to have the type of representation that we have not had in many parts of this district ever before. And so we have an opportunity now to send someone to Washington, D.C. to go to bat for the places and the communities everywhere from Mobile up to Montgomery, all the way over to the Georgia state line. And there are a lot of things on the priority list. But at the end of the day, what you get in me is someone that's going to be experienced, that's been in these rooms, that's worked in these committee rooms, that's worked with the staff around Washington, D.C., that knows the ins and outs of federal agencies to best position this district for success. This is not Montgomery is not the same as Washington, D.C. It's just not. It is a different creature. altogether. And it takes someone being able to step in there day one, knowing who to call, knowing where to go to try to address the issues and the priorities of the local cities and towns within this district. I think it also takes someone that's shown that they're committed to actually living in this district. Because at the end of the day, look, Huntsville is a fine place. It's a wonderful place. That's where most of the federal resources in this state already go. And so we have enough cities and towns in District 2 so as to not have to worry about whether or not the person we send to Congress is going to be channeling resources, federal funds up to Huntsville or down to Mobile or down to Phoenix City or Eufaula. That's a real concern. And so with me, you're going to get somebody that the priority for this district is going to always be the people of this district, always be the cities and towns of this district. You're going to have someone committed to making sure that when the mayors and the county commissioners and the city councilmen and the leaders and constituents come to Washington, D.C., that we're not just committed in having you walk around the halls of Washington, D.C. to meet with members of Congress. No, I want to get you in front of the relevant chiefs of staff, the front of the relevant office heads at these federal agencies to sit down and have those direct conversations about how we can get federal resources into your communities to make these places somewhere where companies want to come, where retirees want to retire, where veterans want to move to after they're done with their service to this country, where workers want to be and where families want to set up. And at the end of the day, look, this district, we're now all bound in this sort of congressional garment of destiny, from Mobile to Montgomery, from Montgomery over to Phoenix City. And so we have a chance here. We have an opportunity here. We have a qualified, experienced candidate that has worked through the halls of Washington, D.C. And we can do this. On April 16th.
Yeah.
His election.
One last thing. We're in Birmingham, not just in Birmingham, we're in the heart of the Civil Rights District.
Yeah.
And you had some interesting comments as far as Tuskegee and Mobile and other places who deserve to be recognized as it relates to Black history. I would be remiss if I let you get out of here without.
So look, it's Montgomery and Tuskegee specifically. They're both in this district. They have paid a different type of price, than a lot of other cities and towns across this country in terms of their investment into what is the soul and conscience and fabric of America, and making America be what it can be. I mean, the rights that are enjoyed from coast to coast, and in some cases across the world, those rights were planned for, strategized for, protested for, bled for, fought for, died for, in places like Montgomery and Tuskegee and obviously, being here in Birmingham. And so America owes a different type of debt to those places. Like America owes a debt of gratitude to the cities that are responsible, that are at the root, that are at the literal root of making America be what it promised to be on paper. My favorite Martin Luther King quote is, "All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper." Mm-hmm. And that was a quote that he said in a number of speeches, but in one notable speech that he gave in Montgomery. And to me, that sums up the whole civil rights movement, is that, we're not asking for special treatment. We're just asking to be true to what you told us that as Americans we would be. And the debts that, Tuskegee paid to this country in terms of being one of the original Black hubs of higher education, through the likes of George Washington Carver and Booker T. Washington, to the Tuskegee Airmen. There's an international debt that's owed to the safety and security that Tuskegee Airmen provided to the European continent during World War II. In Montgomery, like, I don't have to explain to you what happened in Montgomery, right? But without a Montgomery, there's no Martin Luther King as we know it, right? Without a Montgomery, there is no Rosa Parks as we know it. Without a Montgomery, there is no Barack Obama as we know it. And without a Montgomery, there's certainly no new District 2 as we know it, because there's no Voting Rights Act as we know it. And there's no Civil Rights Act as we know it. There's no Michael Figures integrating University of Alabama's law school as we know it, right? That is a debt that America owes to Montgomery. And so in Congress, I would make sure that every day people are reminded of that debt. I'm a lawyer, I'm not a banker, but as I understand it, when it comes time to recoup investments, people that paid in the most are the people that get out the most. And Montgomery, Tuskegee, Birmingham paid a hell of a lot into this country. Paid a hell of a lot into making this country what it should be for Black people, but for all people. And they need a member of Congress that's going to go up there and remind people every single day what you owe Montgomery. Right?
Man.
So that's how I feel about it. At the end of the day, Montgomery it's a very unique place, man. It's a very unique place, and it holds a very special place in world history, and in American history. And Congress will be made aware of that every single day. And I'm from Mobile. Listen, and look, we're gonna focus on Mobile and every other city in the district. But there's a certain special type of gratitude that this nation owes cities like Birmingham and Montgomery as it relates to this district that America has not paid and that America owes. And the due date is well past due. And so that's part of the reason I want to go to Congress.
Man, thank you for correcting Montgomery, Mobile.
Mobile played a role too.
but I meant to say,
a very fun fact about Mobile. The first bus boycott actually happened in Mobile.
Yes.
Yes. But it was, it didn't last as long because of a variety of factors. But and Martin Luther King spoke about it a couple times. And the city gave in on some concessions, that and they moved past it pretty quickly. But Montgomery took it to another level, right, and didn't just accept the concessions that the city was willing to make up front. And so there's that unique history there. And then obviously like a lot of cool people out of Mobile, birthplace of Mardi Gras, but Hank Aaron and Satchel Paige and a bunch of others, man. So it's a cool place. Love to call it home, man. It's who I am. That's who made me. So,
well, I want to thank my new friend, Vivian's boy.
Yeah, and Michael's boy.
But I never met your father. But I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank you all for watching and listening. And as always, a huge shout out to Creed 63 and URBANHAM.com. God bless.
This podcast is being brought to you by the Jones Group. The Jones Group is a full-service government relations and strategic communications firm specializing in political, corporate, and nonprofit consulting at the local, state, and federal levels. Their commitment to every client is twofold: providing trusted service and desired results. The Jones Group has built a national reputation that stands for integrity, efficacy, service, and results. You can find them on the web at www.jonesgroupllc.com.